Welcome to the OC. I'm your host, Phil, and this is my co-host, Corey. And we're going to be talking today about Area 51. But before we do, we have some housekeeping.
Yeah, so last episode, for those who watched it, fascinating episode. I recommend it. It's awesome. Like and subscribe.
Yeah.
I mentioned John Locke when talking about supply and demand.
Yeah,
so supply and demand.
I remember.
Yes. Yeah, the guy from Lost. Yes. Apparently, he also wrote some very important books on libertarianism and about the free market, but not specifically supply and demand. So specifically, James Stewart and Adam Smith were two people that talked about that. James Stewart in his book, The Principles of Political Economy, and Adam Smith in his Wealth of Nations. That's where the concept of supply and demand, and to link back into the New World Order episode where money is everything. And hey, if you can control the supply or manage the demand. Exactly. Just like cocaine.
Did you read these books?
No, I read some of John Locke's, but I was never a fan of. Yeah. So
I mean, that seems dry. I don't know.
It can be, but it's some interesting. There's some interesting stuff
For sure. Okay.
Read some Greek philosophy. If you go read some of the Stoic texts, read Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, or if you can't, read Donald Robertson's How to Think Like a Roman Emperor.
Physically, I think I can. I could read it.
You possess the ability to read.
I possess. Yeah, I mean, if it's in English for the most part, I'm good. However, I don't know. I have a hard time staying focused. I think it's ADD, to be honest.
I think we can. Anybody who's watched these episodes up to this point is clearly aware that both of us suffer some degree of attention focus issues.
Yeah, disorder.
I'm not going to say deficit. I'm going to say we tend to hop around. Now, we did clearly say in the description that this is a stream of consciousness.
This is chaos sometimes.
That we're trying to order.
With a healthy dose of order when we can.
What are we talking about tonight, Phil?
Area 51. And so, yeah. It's one of the, we've been doing a lot of big topics. This is a big topic too, but I mean, I think we'll just I'd like to cover some of the facts of this place as much as we can, because there's a lot of there's a lot of speculation.
Well, that's the nice thing about this place is that there is facts behind it, right?
There is. Yep.
And you're right about the big topics. A lot of the other topics we've talked about are, I don't want to say higher level, but more abstract concepts. Like the New World Order is very abstract. The COVID conspiracy one at the start is abstract in the sense that they're just crazy stuff. And Sasquatch, well.
Hey, that's right. I think that, especially starting out doing podcasts, we're kind of tackling some of the bigger ones, and then we can break them down a little bit more individually.
And forward to an Illuminati episode, my friend.
Right. And that ties into the New World Order. Oh, I'll wear my toga. Can't wait. It's going to be exciting. Thong and toga. It'll be a party. Yeah. So Area 51, located approximately 130 kilometers, 85 miles from Las Vegas, in the desert in Groom Lake, a giant pit of a lake.
Which apparently was ideal, because if you're looking to land planes in somewhere, right?
It's flat.
It's a flat salt lake. I mean, you
only one of the longest runways. Apparently it's like 5 miles. I don't know what you need a runway that long for, but highly classified. This place is, nobody really gets close. Nobody knows much about it. Until 2013, it was denied that it even existed. And the only reason it came to light was not because of aliens. A fellow who was a U2 enthusiast decided to,
The Edge is awesome.
What's that?
The Edge.
The
awesome
Edge
guitar player.
Who's The Edge?
U2? We're not talking about the band. Wait, you're telling me we're not talking about the band U2? Oh
no,
my God.
The plane.
I was going to get my Joshua.
We'll get into that
album
later. But anyway, yeah. So, this guy sued them, and he said, we want to know basically where this plane was created. And 2013, the CIA and a bunch of people went, it was made here. Area 51. Now we go, oh, okay. But other than that, there's not a lot being released to the public. Right?
It's actually an airport. It actually has its own airport code, right? It's like the Homey Airport or something like that.
Homey Airport or Groom Lake or I think back when they were trying to recruit people, they called it like the Paradise Ranch because they couldn't fucking get people to come and work here.
Did they call it Dreamland? Like,
I don't.
do you think people went there instead of like Michael Jackson's Dreamland Ranch?
Can you imagine getting a job and then it's like, all right, so you're gonna get on this white, red striped plane over here, sitting in, at Ellis, whatever. I know. Well, what's the base, or where does it fly out of?
Is it Edwards or is it?
I don't know. Maybe it's Las Vegas. It flies out of. It's
that sounds like some housekeeping for next episode.
We'll figure out where they fly out of. But yeah, and then you land and you're in the middle of nowhere. It's the Nevada test site where what they used to test there?
Nuclear bombs, atomic weapons.
They did. Yes.
It's desert. I think Nevada desert.
Yeah, man. So this is just
drop bombs there, right? Why not? Nothing lives there. Nothing we care about.
Yeah. So this is just a small part of this test site, and it was developed in the 40s, I think, but I don't. It wasn't what it is now. It wasn't until the Cold War when the CIA took over and basically said, "Okay, we're going to make this into our own," and that's where the creation of the U2 came.
Yeah, because it was pretty much like it was basically like an airstrip in the middle of nowhere with some buildings as opposed to something interesting until the CIA got a hold of it. And then they put like movie theaters in and.
Oh, they turned it into, it became a functional base, right? Because they wanted to build a spy plane.
That's not a functional base. Okay, you put a movie theater there, that's not a functional base. That's like, hey, we want you to stay here. We want to encourage you to stay here.
Yeah. And, but still, once again, nobody really has a full understanding of the ins and outs and hows and whatever. So they basically developed the U2, which is a plane that could fly 3 times or 4 times higher than any, plane at that time.
What ones do we know that they developed there? Because they did a bunch of stuff, right?
Oh,
this
planes?
is the thing I love about Area 51 is actually forget the alien stuff for now.
For sure.
Just the stuff they did.
So the U2 was the first one, right? And then they did this, project where they wanted to make planes invisible to radar. So
quiz, what was the U2 program called?
I don't know.
Aquatone.
Oh, Aquatone. That's right.
Aquatone.
I remember reading that. I'm like, oh my God.
I don't know what random number.
They've got some weird
names. Yeah.
So like the Have Blue program was the big program where you start to see those cool planes coming out, right? Like the A-12. The A-12, which I used to call the G.I. Joe plane. What was that black G.I. Joe plane? Oh, Night Raven? I don't know. Anyway, the black.
I know there was the Black Bird. There was the Black Bird, but I might be thinking X-Men. X-Men had a Black Bird plane.
Yeah, no.
The wings were inverted.
So this was like an A2, it's got that long beak, long neck. It's got the big, thrusters at the back.
But were the wings inverted? Like were the wings instead of being like this, they were like this?
No, I don't think so. No, not on that one. But so that was developed there, which became, it was a huge plane. It was able to travel great distances, very fast.
What was it for? What did they use? Was it a bomber? Was it a reconnaissance? Because the U2 was a reconnaissance plane, right? Like that seems.
The U2 was take pictures, recon really high up in the sky. The A-12, I believe that it could have had payloads. It could have been a bomb. I'm not 100%. I'm not a plane enthusiast, but we'll put up on top here. What exactly it was, but it was. My guess is it was also a type of recon. A lot of this stuff was because of the Cold War, they wanted to initiate, spies to, they wanted to spy on Russia and see what the fuck they were up to.
Because exactly right. This wasn't the case of now where I can go to Google Earth and spy on Russia.
Oh God, no. And there was no surveillance like at the time, and even up until like they basically, until Russia had its own satellites, there was no pictures of this area. It did not exist. In fact, like people that did film it, like flying over and stuff, like they weren't allowed to publish these pictures. They weren't allowed. Like it was very top secret. So, So yeah, the A-12 came out, the GI Joe plane,
The jet.
and then the Have Blue program started, and that is your 117. It's your
The
A117.
Nighthawk or whatever, right?
Yeah, well, there was a whole bunch. The F117, sorry, was the Nighthawk. And then there was its big brother, which was
See, I prefer to remember it by the cool names, not the F117.
so. Did you ever? I saw one when I was younger, and we have an event here in town. It's called the Heritage Festival, and
Oh
they
yeah,
did
I
an air
remember that.
show.
I
Yeah,
don't remember seeing it, but I remember
yeah. Well,
the air show.
we did this, and it had CF-18, I believe, or something. Plus, it had this plane from the States, and so the CF-18 goes roaring past us. We're all along the shore of the lake, and then out of nowhere, this fucking diamond comes flying, no noise. We're all sitting there like, what is this thing? Right?
And see, that's when you start thinking about some of the ideas of the UFOs. Imagine in the 50s, because you're too young to be in the 50s, you would be saying, "Oh my God, it's a UFO! That's not a plane. A plane."
Well, we knew it was coming because at this time it would have been how old would it? Might have been in the 90s, mid 90s. So, it was already, that particular plane, I believe, was decommissioned. And then its predecessors took over. But man, what a cool plane! And that's from the 70s. So what do they have now?
So this is the scary part about all this stuff that you hear about what they were doing at Area 51, as far as experimental technology. What do they have now, right? So you've got like the A-12, which was, I think, was like called Oxcart.
Oxcart was the program.
Yeah, so was the program to develop the A-12, right?
Well, to develop, yeah, it was the beginning of anti-radar, right? So they got into the geometry of everything, right? So you're starting to see these things are starting to be built different. They're starting to have angles and weird angles and
like the weird angles. The paint is like radar absorbing or something.
Well, the skin, yeah. So they still don't. Nobody fucking knows. It's crazy.
And these things is what leads to people to say, wait a second, you made this jump all of a sudden.
And nobody else has them, I don't think. I mean, we should do maybe some homework on that and go, but I don't believe there are.
That sounds like espionage. So spy on other countries and see if they have.
Well, no, but it would be public. It would be public record. Does Russia have a stealth bomber? Do they? I don't know. Canada surely doesn't. We barely have.
And Russia does have its own Area 51, though. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah,
that could be another topic.
It actually is called NII-88. Now they're more concerned with rocketry, and it's got the super awesome name of Tishnilmash. It's apparently like a initial. Sometimes the Russian agencies have like weird initials that don't make any sense. Yeah, yeah, it's got that.
Maybe it makes sense to them.
It's in a small town just outside of Moscow, about 40 clicks out of Moscow.
Oh, yeah.
And it's mostly rocketry. So they were more concerned about rockets, which is why technically they beat us to space, not to the moon, but to space.
Right. Well, that's the other thing is that, a lot of the, there's so much that's happened in this area that the moon landing was another conspiracy that, it was filmed actually.
Oh, we're going to have to get back to it. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves, do we?
No, let's not get too far ahead. But that's how big this thing is that, there's, because it's such a secret, you have to sit back and go, okay, well, perhaps it's a secret, but I don't know if it's all of these nefarious things.
But that's the thing when you talk about secrets. So one of the cool parts they used to do there was their foreign technology evaluation program. So have drill, have donut, have ferry. So those were the three ones they used. And basically, that's where they acquired like MiGs or other. Well, let's say foreign-made planes. Let's say Russian planes. They acquired Russian planes, and they would have their guys test them to find out. They would try to reverse engineer them. They would have their pilots fly in them, and this is kind of cool when you find out that they did that, and they determined that the machines, although performed differently, both the U.S. and the Russian planes were essentially on the same ground. Like the same plane, not counting the super awesome, stealth bombers and stuff like that. We're talking your general fighter jets, right?
Yeah, that's right. You're well, and the the MiG was considered and probably still considered,
It's it's like the AK-47. It's a good, solid workhorse of a plane.
It just likes to go and blow shit up. And you can't fault it.
But they would do these tests with these planes, and they made the determination that it's the pilots that make the difference. So the whole Top Gun thing that the Naval Academy adopted, I think it was the Top Gun's a Naval Academy, right? Not an Air Force, which is ironic that it's a Navy, not an Air Force thing.
Well, yeah.
I think Top Sub would be the Navy equivalent, but no, apparently not.
I don't know, man. I can't follow all that stuff.
But it's cool because they developed that training. They realized that it comes down to the fighter pilot skill. You can't just out tech your opponent because they weren't out teching their opponents. The MiGs were I think the F-18s. I think the F-18s had they were faster, but the MiG-21s could maneuver better at low speeds or something like that. Like they were basically equal, and it was all pilots. So they developed the training out of that. And you could see why, if you're flying around Russian planes, that you don't want the Russians to know you have.
Right.
You want to put that in a secret spot, and you want to keep that in wraps, and you want to tell people aliens.
Right. And the stealth was able to do, it was a bomber, man. Like it wanted to drop some big ass fly in.
First strike capability.
Yeah.
Terrifying during the Cold War. Any country that could develop a first strike capability set themselves head and shoulders. That's why you had the submarines coming in, with the intercontinental ballistic missiles, right? The ability to launch attack before your opponent gets to launch their nukes. Yeah.
Well, and like the CIA was basically the starter of this with Oxcart. There was this program or company called Skunkworks. And you're reading, you didn't. Yeah,
I came across it near the end actually when I was looking at.
Well, these are the guys
at the Aurora stuff.
These are the the badass choppers of the plane industry, right? Like they are just the dudes. I can only imagine because they developed most of this stuff. Like they built it. This is your job. We want a plane that cannot be seen. We want it to hold a bunch of bombs. And all right, nobody can know about it. Get to work.
Your plane leaves to our secret black site in 5 minutes.
Yeah,
get on it.
Oh, and if you tell anybody, we'll fucking kill you. But yeah, so and they did the F-117, which was the Blackbird, the stealth fighter, the SR-71. That was the Blackbird. That was a pretty cool plane.
That's what I was thinking of, the SR-71.
What time?
The SR-71. That's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, the Blackbird. Yeah. So who knows what else? That's from the 70s. Most of what we know is from that 70s period. Like there's people that are saying that they have technology that can do up to Mach 5, Mach 8. Some of these are very crazy speed. Like what is Mach 8? What was it, like 3,600 miles an hour? Google it.
Is it like 8 times the speed, 8 times 600 or something like that? Like is that because this
or 48
speed of sound is like 600 miles per hour or something like that?
Yeah. So
let me Google. Give me a second.
Yeah, it's fast. I mean, it's very fast. But
apparently, it's an alternative healthcare food and product store. Is that what you were looking for? Mach 8.
No,
that's not what you're talking about.
Go back. You went too far.
You went too far. Okay, Mach. There's math.
Oh, don't worry about it. We'll figure it out later. But it's fast. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fast.
It's very fast.
Mach 8 is apparently hypersonic.
Yeah, I mean it's not supposed to probably. It's not good for you, I would assume. Oh yeah, we're flying this way. I left my nuts back there.
That's right. Yeah, and I don't think you're injecting at that point. You're like, I'm going to inject and do what? Get shredded.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, the actual air, the atmosphere becomes very abrasive, I guess, at that speed. So yeah, so I mean, as a whole, it's a big secret base, right? So now they still have zero fly over that, the zero fly zone. That's still it can go on as it goes on. And I'm not sure if it's over the entire base or the entire test site.
I suspect there's a significant radius and ceiling to it.
Huge. Yeah. And you can't get close to this. I mean, it's fenced off. You've got armed guards that are traveling.
Well, it is a military base. It's a military base.
It is a military. Well, I mean, we have a military base, and I can just go wandering there anytime I want.
So do I guess. I can at least drive on the part where the stuff, like the people are.
Yeah, there's no big signs that say, we can use extreme force and kill you, shoot you, and those are pretty intimidating signs that you could be shot on sight. Yeah. Anyway, and they have pressurized monitors in the ground. Like, there's cameras everywhere. This is, people try and sneak in all the time. It's a huge area. You think, oh, fuck, I don't see anything for miles. I can just walk into this place. And then 5 minutes later, you're surrounded by dudes in, white Jeeps. And
do you remember the storm Area 51 craziness where a bunch of people, they can't stop us all?
Yeah, the 2 million people signed up.
150 showed up. Yeah, like 150 showed up, and 4 were arrested for like urination or something like that.
Well, the guy who started it, I watched him on YouTube, and he's like, "Listen, don't. This was a joke. Do not." And I repeat.
And did he keep looking over his shoulder?
Yeah,
this is a joke. Don't do it.
Am I okay? Can you let my mom go? Right? Like, what the fuck is going on? But yeah, storm Area 51. And when I was watching that, a part of me is like, 1, I found it funny. 2, I was like, there's going to be a lot of dead geeks out there who think they're going to jump this fence and nothing's going to happen. Because these are just all these guys are like, yeah, show me the aliens. And these guys are like, I would recommend you do not cross our border.
You have 5 seconds to comply.
Yeah.
Get the
very serious dudes. Yeah. So
now, what is it used for now? So again, we're assuming it's the same thing, right? Like, we haven't heard anything, and I wonder all the stuff. I know a lot of the black projects.
Yeah, well, training facility. That's what they claim happens there. As the pilots are being trained, and they're testing new planes, and that's why you kind of go, okay, well, there's these guys. I can't remember whether it's a neighboring. What's it called? I wrote it down.
It's like Papua.
It's a little spot. It's a town. Yeah, it's a little town, and it's like people come from all over the world.
Rochelle, the town of Rachel.
Rachel. Yeah. So
on the extraterrestrial highway,
right? Like, it's so amped up, and the locals are probably eating it up. Like, you're probably getting a UFO burger for $13.99. I mean,
which I would do the same thing.
Why not?
Seriously.
I mean, you got to make money. I'm an idiot. I'll pay the prices, whatever.
It's a little harsh.
Okay, but you know what I mean. So I mean, they could very well be seeing. I've watched some videos. I mean, I've watched different documentaries, and you see like there's some pretty crazy stuff that vertical takeoffs and things that are moving very quickly.
Well, you look at all the stuff from the Project Blue Book, right? So they tried. So
that's another whole.
I know. But wait, this is where I'm going with this.
All right,
one of the things the investigators of Blue Book did is they knew what was going on at Area 51, and they would try to associate the sightings they were seeing and saying, "Are you guys testing any stealth crafts or doing any weird stuff?" And they're like, "Yeah, we did some stuff." Like, okay, so chances are. Yeah, this thing they saw is the thing you should be more your stealth craft. They saw it, so you might want to work on that.
Yeah, now you're in the paper.
Now you're in the paper. Now, right, now aliens, right?
Now it's aliens. But do I think that there are things that cannot be explained in terms of crafts? Of course, but does it necessarily mean it's aliens? No, right? Like, you have a lot of pilots right now coming forward, or they've come forward before and they were made fun of, but you have footage. The Pentagon's released footage a few years ago.
What's the one with I remember
it's tracking
cockpit, and I thought
it's messing with them.
Yes,
like they're trying to track it, and it's like, no, you're not tracking us. So sorry, and it takes off so fast that it literally can't be tracked. Like they have no idea how fast it was going. It just
now wasn't Russia last year, or maybe the year before, was talking about their hypersonic missiles. Like they were.
Oh, maybe.
They've been talking about, and again,
I think every country starts to brag about how big their dick is, but at the end of the day, I mean,
particularly if it's not, right?
Yeah,
particularly
right.
if it's not, you want to say, look
at North Korea. We've got a Scud missile that we've strapped some uranium to. Now we have nuclear missiles. I mean, seriously. Okay, give it. But yeah, and I think that making a missile to go hypersonic is one thing, but having a craft that's actually piloted by somebody that has to endure those speeds, like look at astronauts when they have to leave the atmosphere, like they're literally just mush in a chair.
Well, this leads into the whole idea of unmanned drones, right? So if you can, like hypersonics, I get it. Once you get to a certain point, I don't know about you, but the human body, we're big fluid filled sacks, and I'm pretty sure we're not supposed to go certain speeds.
Well, in flying, flying straight, maybe, it's fine until you angle up and you're pulling now 25 G's or something ridiculous that, your eyeballs explode. It's not a good day, man. We're not.
That's where the unmanned drones come in, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Rise of the Machines.
Yeah.
Episode 5.
Oh. Did you just do a spoiler?
No. Okay. You can play. You can mute that. You can. So when you see stuff like that, right now, I do wonder. So this came out. A lot of the stuff we know about Area 51 came out during an access to information request, right? Did we get anything? Well, where else? Where did we get information from?
So the only information that was given was that yes, it is a base. Yes, we've been lying. Yes, it's top secret. You've got us. No, 1989. And I like this guy. His name's Bob Lazar. And you cannot talk about a
picture of him over there.
Oh, Bob, right there. You cannot talk about Area 51 without talking about Bob Lazar.
So full disclosure, I had no idea who this guy was.
You didn't. And I was like,
who the hell's Bob Lazar? You're like, Area 51, Bob Lazar. I'm like, Bob Lazar? That sounds like an action hero.
So anyway, I'm not exactly sure how Bob came to the conclusion that he wanted to tell the world what was going on. So he goes to the press. He goes to this reporter named George Knapp. And George Knapp is like this Cable 8 guy. And he loves the story and people fucking love this shit. And so they cover his face up and he has a fake name. I can't remember what the fuck it is, Daryl or something. He says, well, this is what's going on in Area 51. There's flying saucers. There's 9 of them. Not just one, there's 9. And we each work on different parts of the plane. It's very, compartmentalized. And we, I work on propulsion and Buddy over here works on avionics or whatever the fuck it is. And people eat it up, and ties into Roswell. And oh yes, we knew it. Yeah, we knew. So now, with that said, like he's a very humble guy. He's a very well-spoken man, and he talks about a lot of things that nobody else knew about. Nobody knew. So he said that he worked at a place called S4, which is a part of Area 51. It's another top secret area. So they have a whole bunch of little niches inside of Area 51. So he talks about that. And it wasn't until like 23 years later that S1 or S4, they found out, there is a place called S4. So you go, oh, well, was he full of shit? I don't know.
So when you see stuff like that, so that after the fact vetting of stuff that they release.
Well, there's some other interesting stuff about Bob Lazar. So he said in 1989, there was an element that they deemed called 115. So it's an element, and it is the crucial element in anti-gravity technology. It is the element that is basically the reason you can have anti-gravity.
It's magic rock. Magic rock.
It's a magic something. So anyway, he says this. Now, at that time, there was no 115 discovered. But later, let's see, as of 2004, Russia recreated element 115. Then the Swedes recreated it in 2013.
So an anti-gravity element, or they created an element called 115 that they assigned 115 on the gear
they
table.
called it 115.
Okay.
Yeah. So now it's so unstable that at the moment that nobody can do anything with it, but it does exist. So now you're back to the problem with Bob, when there is no record of him working there, which you would,
and there's no record of his actual degrees he was talking about, like the stuff he was doing, right?
So and not even just, I want to believe him so bad. Like I'm like, fuck Bob, what, why? But because he never tried to make money off of this. He disappeared. He claimed that, he went public because he was really scared that he knew too much and that he was going to disappear. So, he thought, well, if I go public and I disappear, it'll be more difficult for them to,
if you make yourself known and you so one of the challenges with the situation of coming out is you have a choice. If you go off and make yourself public, first off, you kind of reduce the threat, but increase the threat at the same time because you lose any anonymity, and they know you can't go away now.
Right.
But you also run into the challenging part of what happens next, in that does the government go off and come at you? Because if you were working on any of this stuff, there would be security clearance involved.
Oh, it was huge.
And you would be one of the, like in Canada, we have things called where you're permanently bound to secrecy, where you're not allowed to talk about what you did.
Right.
Okay. And if you did that, they have two options. They can come at you and say, you violated your oath of saying not talk about the secret stuff, which gives credit to the stuff you're talking about. Or they don't, and basically say, well, he's not talking about anything that's worthwhile. We're not going to come after him. He's garbage.
Right. And so there is a documentary on Netflix. I believe it's called The Lazarus Project. Check it out. Awesome. It does talk about Bob Lazar, and he is very, there's quite a bit of stuff that he talked about back then because he disappeared. He's like, fuck this. I don't want anything to do with this. You all think I'm crazy. I'm out. And he started a small business. And I think he's up in like Wisconsin or I don't know if it's Michigan. I don't know. One of those places, Michigan, maybe. And he's like, I just want to live my life. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to deal with it. But yeah, there was no proof he worked at MIT, and no proof that he worked at Caltech. Like nobody even knew him. Not one teacher, not one student could verify. He had nobody.
Which again, if there was a cover up going on, that's kind of what you would expect. So it's funny.
Be pretty big.
It would be, and so the chance of that actually being the case, very low, but who knows? Who knows?
Yeah. And I mean, we don't know the reach of CIA, or who knows what Men in Black can be very convincing. But to erase somebody's, very existence
without erasing them. So that's the problem, right? Without taking them out. Like, wouldn't it be easier to have him have a crazy accident? But it seems like there are easier ways of dealing with this than going off and telling MIT, okay, delete all his records. We want to make sure you don't know that he didn't go here. Yeah,
and that's the problem. So he's got all this great information. He's very convincing because he is smart, right? He's a very intelligent man. But most people consider him a quack because there's nothing to back up that he actually was a physicist, that he actually did this job. It was hired. There's nothing. So we're left with that. And personally, I fucking believe him. I think he worked there.
It's confirmation bias. They talk about being a contractor for a technician, right? Like he was contracted as a technician to do something in Los Angeles.
Well, at S4, he was there to reverse engineer propulsion systems. Very small job. He said he was left alone in a room with one of these. He'd only seen it one time. Were these saucers? Never seen an alien. People ask him, well, did you see little aliens running around? He's like, I know. But there were these. I was in a room with one of these ships, like, and it was an operational vehicle. Like, it worked. Was that a military vehicle that was made by the military? That could be it too. I mean,
well, okay, so
and he assumed, and he said, well, that's a fucking alien ship.
Yeah, but look at Have Drill, look at Have Donut, look at Have Ferry, the foreign technology evaluation programs, right? So if they had managed to get their hands on a hypersonic Russian super awesome weapon, right?
Well, yeah.
Right? I mean,
well, they would tear it apart a million ways from Sunday.
They would do exactly what he's talking about. They would say, here, I need you to reverse engineer this propulsion system.
Yeah. And, then, but before all of this, you have that, the crash in Roswell, New Mexico, which was, a long ways away from, it's like 800 miles away.
It's a bit of a trip.
Is it ever? Like, you kind of go, well, why would it bring it there right away? Like, so they assumed that, the crash that the government had admitted to and then denied, said it was a weather balloon, was basically packaged up and shipped to Area 51. And that's when everything changed at Area 51. That's
when it became associated with aliens versus...
No, because...
Was it associated with aliens before?
Not because it was unknown. Nobody knew anything about this.
Gotcha.
This all started to become, popular later on, right? And especially in 1989, like, people knew there was some weird shit going on. They would see things flying, and like you said, well, maybe that was experimental aircraft. It doesn't necessarily have to be, these from aliens, but it could be.
Because it can be a UFO is not an alien, and a UFO is unidentified flying object.
That's correct. Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I couldn't identify one of the A-12 if it's zipping around. It'd be like some weird looking plane.
I think though, when you start to see things that look like a disc, you go, no wings, no rudder, no lights that we know like her.
No sound.
Moving really fast in weird directions. You go, okay, that's not a fucking anything I've ever seen. So that's weird. Yeah. And that's been seen. Like, I completely believe there's just too many sightings, too many videos. Like, can they all be fake? Maybe, but there is definitely way, be it the American government, the Russian government, the Chinese government. Somebody's got some weird shit going on. And they're hiding it. And
I think that's one of the things we fall into, Phil, is we think because we live in this wonderful information age that we are now aware of everything. We
should know everything, Corey.
I could Google this, right? Well, okay. Not everything makes it onto Google. And there's an awful lot of stuff that was science fiction at one point is now science fact. You'd be burned at the stake back in the 80s if you had a cell phone now.
Yeah. Who was that guy that had a cell phone when we were in high school? Oh my God. He had it in a bag. It was a bag phone.
So when I did security work, and then when I did security work in the early 2000s, that was mine. The battery pack would get really, really hot.
Well, yeah, it's huge. It weighs 25 pounds.
I know, but it had like a 20-minute charge to it. And I was instructed by my supervisor that in the event of attack to use it as a weapon.
Perfect.
Yeah. And it was ridiculous. It was such a horrible
first line of
call.
defense is my cell phone. Perfect.
But that's like technology.
Don't put it near your junk because that will fry your eggs.
That's right. It'll fry your eggs. Your twig and berries.
Yeah, gone. Just shriveled.
But it's that technology advances we've been seeing. So
yeah,
and I think that's a lot of the stuff that you've seen around Area 51 is that idea of experimental avionics, experimental planes, experimental everything.
If you can change the way things communicate, a plane has a lot of. Let's say it's a flying saucer. Well, you would have a different way of communicating. You would have a different way of, who knows, like instrumentation that picks up different frequencies, different maybe gravitational pull of the Earth. It could have so many things. I don't know.
Just think of how navigation would work, right? So right now, the closest thing I can think of is something like a helicopter where you've got up, down, left, right, forward, and an angle. Like it says to fly a helicopter, you basically need all 10 fingers, 2 feet and maybe a couple of extra hands to fly a helicopter successfully, right?
There's a lot going on, yeah.
And they're not going very fast. So imagine if you're going hypersonic, where just the instrumentation that would be required to keep you from smashing into things.
So when their instrumentation on some of these planes are able to measure hypersonic, it's off the charts. Some of the stuff they've seen, So like, you're not even talking anything within our realm of understanding.
Neither of us are aerospace engineers that I know of.
Well,
you've done a lot of stuff.
College.
That's right. All done things in college. I'll have to tell my buddy,
right?
So my buddy Dino Guerra sometime.
So it makes me question what is this now? I can't say that there are aliens. I can't say there's not. I don't know.
So let's get to that part. So we've talked about what the reality of Area 51 is based on what's been released.
Yeah.
Right. All these declassified projects that you've heard about and physically seen. Bob Lazar. Now, what about the crazy stuff? What about the like you touched on it with the alien? So Roswell, remember the alien autopsy thing that everybody was going gaga about? They said that happened at Area 51.
They did. Everything's happened at Area 51.
Yeah.
Elvis lives at Area 51. Yeah, with Michael Jackson. Anyway, they're like roommates or something. Yeah, you've got Roswell, you've got the moon landing. So the moon landing was a big one. People believe that was filmed in Area 51, either at night, it is a desert, by what's his name? You know the director.
Stanley Kubrick. Apparently, one of the theories come down to that he put hints. Now, I hadn't heard the Area 51 angle. What I'd heard was that if you look at his 2001: A Space Odyssey was what got him on the map to say, hey, here's a guy who could fake the moon landing.
Right.
And you've got, I think it was in The Shining. So the Kubrick.
Did he do The Shining?
I think he did. And anyway, there's like a room number that basically references a soundstage. And if you,
we left Easter eggs and all these little,
apparently he laid them through a bunch of films, and that's something I will dig up. That's housekeeping for that.
That's going down the rabbit hole
where we can go off and pull up the Stanley Kubrick moon landing Easter eggs. Yeah. But the Area 51 angle is fascinating. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I was quite interested in that. So they decided that that's where it happened, and I mean the footage. I don't know. The flag is the biggest thing. The fucking flag doesn't move. Or it looks like it's rippling. Is it rippling? I don't know. It's just a fucking flag. And the big thing is that no one's went back to the moon. Why would you?
Space Force. In Space Force, they did.
Right. The Chinese.
Yeah. They beat the Americans there, but eventually the Americans did make it there. And then they blew up each other's bases.
Great TV show, by the way. I absolutely love space. Oh, I love Steve Carell.
I was going to say, I think you're just more of a big Steve.
I'm a Steve Carell fan. Well, and John Malkovich. I mean, you get those two guys together. I'm
a big I'm more of a John Malkovich guy than you're more of a Steve Carell guy.
I am. Yeah. But yeah, so you've got, why don't we go back? Well, it's a fucking rock. We got samples. Very big project.
We just landed something on Mars recently.
Right? Yeah, with a helicopter. It's got a drone. Yeah. Did you see that?
No.
I just know.
Apparently, like I hate to say it, when Mars, if Earth is that far gone and Mars is our next best choice, wow. Yeah, wow. I'm like,
trouble.
We're in huge trouble right now. We are in massive trouble if that's our option.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's it. You got to terraform that bitch.
Oh yeah, but that takes like centuries. You don't go off and start planting. A lot of the terraforming comes down to that you plant stuff. So the atmosphere of Mars is mostly
flora
carbon dioxide.
And fauna. Yeah.
Right. So plants inhale carbon dioxide, exhale oxygen, and theoretically, in enough time, assuming something horrible doesn't happen, because it's like if it's not bitterly cold, it's like there's no atmosphere, so it's irradiated and everything. Like it's just it's gone to shit. It's what we're gonna be if we don't smarten up. Is exactly what. Well, I know, and that's what I find when we're talking about. And my wife goes on about this all the time. Like, why are we talking about Mars when we really should be focusing on trying to get stuff fixed here, because going to Mars, first off, ain't a solution for what, 8 billion of us. It's maybe a solution.
I was going to say, this is a solution for the new world order.
Exactly.
But not for your common dude.
You and I ain't going to Mars.
That, yeah, your plane ticket's going to be expensive. Mr. Musk is only going to take a certain amount of people. I guarantee it. Elon said. But that's the thing.
Bitcoin right now.
Yeah. But anyway, back to Area 51. So you got the Mars landing, the moon landing faked. That's an episode in itself. The moon is very fascinating. The whole idea of that. What else was there?
One of the big ones I heard about was the Aurora project. So this was basically the whole concept of a hypersonic attack craft, basically and it's literally a triangle. Like it looks like
So that
alien ship.
That is the plane that I was originally alluding to. I just didn't know the name. So it's like Mach 5 or 8 or.
Yeah, and when they were originally talking about it, I think it was
they don't know if it exists though. That's the problem.
Well, that's it. Especially when they were talking about it. They were talking about it like theoretically. I think 2017 or something. They started talking that hypersonic flight is capable, like it's possible.
Right.
But it certainly wasn't possible in 1980 when they were talking about this plane.
No. Well, you had the Concorde was subsonic, right?
That's not hypersonic though. I mean,
not hypersonic, no. But,
right? Like I get it. It flies really fast, but it's like this is a magnitude greater.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I mean, there was Concords from like what, the 60s.
Didn't they? When did they retire that?
It was a while ago. Well, no one could afford it.
Well, I mean, it was nice to be able to do the transatlantic flight in like. I've flown to the UK. I've flown to Heathrow, and it was 6 hours from Toronto, I think. So, yeah, I guess the Concorde was much faster.
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't travel through the atmosphere the way it would actually go to the stratosphere and come down.
Oh, really?
So it would arc. Yeah, it was really. I did some reading on. I just find that stuff interesting, but it did not do it would go to England, in like an hour and 20 minutes or something stupid like that from like United States, California, England in an hour and a half. But, you're paying big bucks, super large money to do that. So, and then one crashed. It was a bad day.
I can't imagine how much that would cost. I mean, aside from the life cost, which frankly, it probably doesn't have very many people on it because it's really expensive, but
maybe, I don't know. I know they had some incidents and then they were just like, okay, yeah, we're done. We're done now. And we'll go on to some other super successful thing.
So one of the cool things I heard about Area 51, and this may be just, cultural, I don't know, memes, cultural things, pop culture mixing.
Yeah.
Majestic 12 has been associated with Area 51.
Right.
Area 51, super, super secret. Majestic 12, apparently, basically the organization responsible for dealing with aliens and UFOs.
Yeah, like the Men in Black. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And it's the whole idea that they're the ones they were created by Truman to investigate aliens and recover any crashed crafts. And with the Roswell thing that, Area 51 was involved. Therefore, if Area 51 was involved, therefore Area 51 is involved with Majestic 12. And it's So when we're sifting through all the bullshit, apparently it's a base for aliens as well. So people and aliens work in conjunction. I wonder what the bathrooms are like. Who knows? I mean,
I'm not sharing with you.
Yeah, that's right.
If it's all over, you don't even have a wiener.
What was the one movie where it's like we pee out of our fingers? Flap. What was the one show where they pee out of their fingers and he kept sticking in the guy's mouth?
No.
Yeah, I'd have to go. We piss out of our fingers. How do you piss? I can't remember that. That's a housekeeping thing.
Jesus, yeah. You're on that one.
It'll show up next time. Yeah. Speaking of which, the Majestic 12 thing. Did you know the FBI has a document that purports to be about Majestic 12?
No.
Yeah. No. So if you go to the FBI, and it'll be in the notes for this episode. if Phil ever gets me the notes. It's me narrowing my eyes. I don't know if you can see through my glasses.
I can. Yeah. My notes or your notes?
Okay, so if I'm going to put up, so there's a reason why if you go to our website, folks, you see episode 1 and episode 3. Episode 2 was Phil's baby, and it does not have any episode notes because I can't put up episode notes that I don't have.
Oh.
I could make them up. I could put something together. I haven't.
Oh.
Okay. Good. But there's a document that I downloaded from the FBI historical vault where basically it's purported to be from about Majestic 12. And the agent in charge who analyzed it basically wrote bogus on every page.
Oh,
yeah. It's fascinating. You're reading it like, okay, all right.
Why redact when you can just put bogus?
Well, because and I think some of it is actually redacted, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, I think, but it's like, I haven't looked at it. I glanced at it and I just saw bogus.
Yeah. Well, one thing we didn't touch on, which I thought was really interesting, is the EPA. So I didn't know.
What does the EPA stand for? I got some questions, by the way, about, we never fully explained in episode 1 what 5G was.
5G?
Yeah.
The cell phone service?
Yeah, we never said that. So a lot of people, they figured it out near the end, but they were like, you talk about 5G like as if we all know what it is. So what is the EPA?
The Environmental Protection Agency. Dum, dum, dum. So these guys...
A sinister force for evil if we've ever heard of one.
So these guys go to Area 51 and say, well, they don't go there, but they contact Area 51. And this is like a while ago. And say, look, we've got claims that you guys are like burning chemicals and there's a lot of weird shit going on. So we want to...
Which would make sense, right? Given... You've got experimental rocket fuels.
You're doing all sorts of stuff going on.
All sorts of stuff. Yeah, you're probably, yeah.
Plus, we like to test for radiation since we used to have bombs dropped there. That's a pretty standard thing, I would think. So anyway, they get taken to court. Bill Clinton decides that he's going to sign, it's called a presidential determination. So by doing so, he's basically said, because the court said, yeah, you should be able to go and check out this site.
Because it falls under their mandate, right?
It absolutely. And people work there, like humans, as well as aliens. I don't know how that, Anyway, so Bill Clinton is like, yeah, no, for the, national security, he's signing this order, which is the presidential determination. So the presidential determination has to be signed every single year by every single president. And it has been since Bill Clinton first signed it. However, how long has it been since Bill Clinton's been? Yeah. So the EPA has stayed the fuck out of Area 51.
Makes you wonder what else has stayed out of there.
Nobody goes in.
If you have the EPA staying out of there, I suspect there's other agencies that have also been sort of like, no.
Yeah. No, and it's
the AEC that actually respond, like, so I know the CIA got the AEC, the Atomic Energy Commission, to acquire to set up Area 51. And I believe it's actually, they're still the people in charge of Area 50. I believe. I'm not sure of that though. That might be it's more housekeeping.
The CIA kind of let things, they like a long time ago. Like I think it was in the 60s.
Vietnam War.
Was it this? Yeah. So they were like, okay, we're kind of done with this. So they moved on, and I don't know who exactly took over, but the Air Force, obviously. So yeah, it's run by the Air Force. What division? The secret one.
Secret one. Top men are dealing with it. It's like the Ark of the Covenant from Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Right.
Keep handling it. We got top men on this. Don't worry.
Yeah. So, but as far as it goes, I don't believe that we're dealing with aliens. I believe that we are definitely dealing with something though that's out of our known realm of technology.
I agree. I think the level of secrecy we're seeing at Area 51 suggests that, yeah, they're doing stuff. And again, if you're working with, the Manhattan Project, for example, when it was worked on, was one of those crazy, if you talk about this, we're going to kill you kind of secrets. right? And now with the world being what it is, you're seeing a new arms race happening. Not a new, I wouldn't necessarily say we're at a new Cold War stage, but you're definitely seeing, China's rising as a rising power now. Russia is getting more and more belligerent. They sort of want their glory days, right? So there's that sense of that.
Right.
I don't know. If I were the U.S., I want to keep a bunch of stuff on wrap, or at least deflect. And that's where I think some of this alien conspiracy comes down to deflection.
Perhaps.
Right.
Yeah. Why not?
Hey, no, there's no aliens here. And then they wink. And then that wink, oh, well, there are aliens there.
Okay, now, this is not to say that I don't, I believe that the universe is too large to not have other living, sentient, intelligent creatures. But I just don't think that they're working at Roswell or at Area 51.
Exactly. It's like, it's the whole idea of if these beings were capable of crossing space and they can't manage to not crash or be shot down by us.
Right. Like I saw a video the other day and it's this alien taking a piss in the bush. And I'm like,
that's what the spacesuits were for.
I'm like, this little dude's like, I gotta piss. Like, you don't have a fucking toilet on your ship. What's wrong with you? You traveled light years.
Yeah, but maybe they're not flying the whole distance. Maybe it's like a warp gates, right? Like maybe they're folding space and crossing. So it's really only a 10-minute trip for him. And it's like, I thought you went, Jerry, I told you to go before we left.
Can you hold your skin flap? Fuck.
Now I'm gonna have to find out.
Yeah. Can you take your finger penis and put it away, Jerry?
Okay. So from all that, where to now with Area 51? Is it something that it's like, hey, I don't
know if there's much more to do with Area 51. Like when we did like New World Order, there's so many different parts, but that's not true. Roswell in itself is pretty interesting. And I think that could be worth a down the road, when we want to get a little alien fix. Project Blue Book is could be a huge
there's a series on History Channel, actually.
Is there?
It's in the second season. Now, I don't think I think it's a drama, like a hyper dramatization, right? Because I suspect a bunch of Air Force guys running around asking people about aliens is probably it's probably less interesting in reality than it sounds in.
And you know what? I would love to delve more into sort of the alien side of things or technology. But as far as Area 51 goes, I don't.
It's kind of played out, isn't it?
It's played out. Not only is it's so secretive that we're just speculating. Everything we just talked about is sort of us speculating anyway, right? But
a lot of independent research, but total speculation.
But you can some topics you can go, okay, well, this makes sense, or that makes sense, or Illuminati, or Freemasons, or you kind of go, okay, well, these are tangible things we can touch and feel and go, oh, well, we don't want to touch and feel Illuminati or Freemasons. That get upset.
That's not without consent anyway, right?
That's right. That's right. And but you know what I mean? Like we're assuming when we talk about Area 51. I think it's a top secret base, and hey,
and even then, it's a known top secret base.
Yeah.
And now, given the current state of technology, I don't know about you, but if I was the US, I wouldn't be testing anything that somebody knows where I'd be testing. I'd be like,
my guess is they moved all that shit out of there like a long time ago.
Yeah. I'm not saying they're not doing stuff there, but they're certainly not flying experimental planes there. Simply because Russia could look at them like, oh, there we go.
Like whoever ran Area 51, people are like, Barney, you fucked up. Look at what we got to do now.
Damn it.
Back up. We're going to Idaho. Into the potato fields we go. We got 40,000 acres up in Wyoming. I don't know. Right? But that's the thing is that, you just go, all right, we've been caught. We've been had.
That's it. And again, I think it's a secret place. Like it's a top secret base, but it's a known top secret base. So therefore, you're not going to do anything there
with coordinates.
Exactly.
If I'm Russian and I want, shit hits the fan, what are some of my top locations that I'm going to send a fucking big state of the art bang bang?
Well,
right now.
Okay, sure. I guess you could do that. Yeah. If you've got a bunch of extra and you're like, well, let's make Area 51. Let's fill in our chessboard.
Well, let's not take any chances. What they got down there.
That's right. Just in case.
Let's just get rid of that area.
Well, that's funny about that, getting rid of the area. They've taught, some of the research I was seeing talked about underground, right? They talk about, what is it, like Papua, they talk about a lake. What the hell's it called? God, let me check my notes here.
Well, Groom Lake is the bed.
Groom Lake, but they say that it is, 1 second here. Underground facilities, the S4 location.
That was
Papoose Lake, which apparently, so they talk about underground facilities and linking. So essentially, the stuff we see on the ground is like the tip of the iceberg, and all the cool stuff is happening underground now.
Well, of course, but we've seen that here in North. Like we have it in an entire facility underneath a mountain. I mean, it's entirely possible.
Yes, so running technology. I remember when we checked it out. Now, mind, this would have been late 80s. So the technology decidedly looked like something from the 70s. Makes sense because it still worked.
Yeah. And, but yeah, I mean, fuck it. It's a 5-story building inside of a mountain.
That's the Sage, folks. We talked about it last episode.
Sage. Yeah. So, but yeah, as far as Area 50, I don't know if unless something comes out. I mean, there is some documents supposed to be, released to the public.
I was surprised actually Trump didn't declassify a bunch of stuff. I know he had talked about going through and declassify, because as president, a commander in chief, he has the ability. Presidents have the ability as commander in chief to declassify stuff. That's my understanding.
Now, but he would have had to sign that EPA order.
And I guess he did.
He had to, or else we would be hearing all about an environmental survey of Area 51. Right? Because that's what they wanted to do, and they wanted to make it public. So, yeah. But what's next week?
Ooh, so next week I'm thinking Rise of the Machines. I don't know. It's kind of the working title for it. Basically, where we're talking about the whole idea of AI, machine learning, autonomous drones, because we're seeing that now. That's like, this is not the future anymore. This is the now.
It is.
So
it is. Yeah, and to be honest with you, some of that shit just scares the fuck out of me.
Only some?
Yeah, a lot of it.
Yeah, wait till you start digging into this, Phil. So once you start doing your digging for next week's episode.
Hey, I'm doing a lot for you here, because I'll tell you why. I don't like digging into this stuff, to be totally honest with you. I like to be, ignorant of how inferior I am to a toaster. I mean, seriously.
Smart, but it's a smart toaster.
Fuck, is it ever? Everything in my house is smarter than I am, including my kids. Crazy. Tired of being the dumb one. I want a chip. If you know anybody, I want one of those, whatever they are, chips. But yeah, okay. So
get the barbecue chips.
Rise of the Machines, hey?
Yeah, I haven't. That's the working title right now. I'll have to come up with something better.
AI, and there are some pretty cool advances.
Well, and this is it. This is where we're dealing with something that's not necessarily conspiracy, but a lot of it is like the quasi science fiction. There totally is science fiction. There's totally conspiracy stuff in there, but the intent is that it's more of a, I don't know,
AI especially. AI.
Well, I mean, this comes back to our previous episode where we talked about the big tech companies. Yeah, the stuff they're doing is pretty crazy.
And
you'll have to tune in next time to find out what that is.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I'm your host, Phil. And this is my co-host, Corey. And we're wishing you a good night. And we will see you next week on the
Well, it might not be night. So where they are. So
you're right. It could be day.
It could be day.
Or mid-afternoon.
Or 11sies, whatever hobbits eat.
Yeah, that's right. But at any rate, have a great day, night, evening.
Take care, folks.
Mid-afternoon. Bye.
Peace out.